If you had to describe someone you deeply care about using only things from nature, what would you choose? Maybe you'd say their laugh is like a bright summer morning, or their kindness is as sweet as honey. There is an entire book of the Bible dedicated to this type of expressive language. It is called the Song of Songs, sometimes known as Solomon's Song. To understand these poems, we have to look at word pictures. This is where the author uses a familiar image to help us understand exactly how a feeling or a quality actually works. The author uses these poetic lyrics to describe a grand royal love story, focusing on the emotional experience of the couple, rather than a literal list of physical descriptions. Take this example from the first chapter, where the author says to his beloved, "Your eyes are doves." On the left, a literal reading creates a pretty strange image of actual birds in someone's eye sockets. But on the right, the word picture shows us the actual intent. The birds represent a sense of peace and gentleness that someone might see in the eyes of a person they love. Ancient biblical poetry focuses on feelings rather than physical appearances. The author isn't trying to describe what a person looks like in a photograph. He is inviting you to connect with the pure, gentle, and calm qualities that a dove brings to mind. Learning to see these images for the qualities they represent helps us appreciate the deeper layers of joy within this text. We can see this in action by stepping into the world of the text. In Chapter 2, we find ourselves in a vibrant Middle Eastern landscape, full of life and color. The author uses the natural world to set the pace, writing, "Look, here he comes, leaping across the mountains, bounding over the hills. My beloved is like a gazelle or a young stag." When we see the gazelle this way, we understand the message. Love in this story has the same fast, exciting, and restless energy as a young animal running through the hills. The scene then shifts to the weather. The author writes that the cold winter has passed and the heavy rains have finally ended. The sudden arrival of spring and blooming flowers represents the fresh, renewing feeling of being loved. It's like the relief of seeing the sun again after a long, gloomy season. The poet uses every sense to describe this experience, from the sound of birds singing across the land to the sweet fragrance of blossoming vines in the air. To capture the sheer scale of this joy, the poet has to borrow the most vibrant and energetic parts of nature, because ordinary words aren't quite enough. Curious, in the context of the whole Bible, this grand love story represents something even bigger than a human relationship. Historically, this poem has been understood as a picture of the relationship between God and his people. The king in the poem reflects God, and the bride reflects those who follow him. Just as the king in the poem delights in his garden and his bride, God sees his people as beautiful and deeply treasures them. But the garden also comes with a warning. The text tells us to catch the foxes, the little foxes that ruin the vineyards. These foxes represent small things, unkind words, minor selfishness, or tiny unresolved conflicts. Little by little, the fox removes the blossoms. While one single bite doesn't destroy the vine, over time, those small, repeated actions can cause real damage to a relationship. This also happens in our relationship with God. Small, unchecked habits or everyday distractions can slowly create distance between us. Staying close to him requires the intentional effort of keeping those little foxes out of our lives. Because this love is so precious, it's worth the work of protecting it from the small, destructive habits that can sneak in unnoticed. All of these images lead to one of the most famous lines in the book, "Let his banner over me be love." In ancient times, a banner was a physical sign carried by an army. It showed everyone who you belonged to and signaled that you were under a king's protection. This word picture tells us that belonging to God places us under his visible, unshakable care. His love is the standard that defines our lives. The Song of Songs describes God's love as something alive, exciting, and deeply personal. Today, try to look at the world around you a bit differently. Find a tree, look at a flower, or watch a bird. Every beautiful part of the natural world can be a personal word picture, a reminder of the ultimate love story between God and his people.